All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Crown Council Live. I am Stuart Anderson, and we are broadcasting live from the Crown Council office here in beautiful Salt Lake City. Grateful to be with you today. I've got a few recorded segments from doctors who I asked to be on the show today, and the best way we could do it was record it and share their interviews with you. So that is coming up here in just a minute. We're grateful for Dr. David Rice and Dr. Charlie Cooper, who both agreed to be on to share some of their successes, things they would do different in their career, things they would do the same, and how they've built incredible practices over the years. So we'll show those in just a minute. I've got a few housekeeping items. One was last week we participated in the Crown Council Young Dentist Program. That was, here in Salt Lake City. We kick off that program at the annual event, and those young dentists join us for a smile design case. And I wanted to show you our smile design case. This is my screen here, an email that was sent out to the Crown Council email network. So here's the group. We met together over 2 weekends, and you can see our patient here, Jesse Finn. He was nominated by his doctor, Catherine Thompson, and then the group, as part of the Young Dentist Program, chose him to be the patient. So Crown Council flies him in. Utah Valley Dental Lab provides the supplies. They take care of the whole smile design. And then Dr. Larson, Chase Larson, and Dr. David Hornbrook, they do all of the work over the 2 weekends. And this is it. It was such an incredible smiles transformation. And Jesse's life hopefully is totally different when he gets home. It was an incredible case to watch and an incredible opportunity to see his life change with just this smile. So I'm going to have Catherine and Jesse join us on a live stream in the future. We've done that in the past to kind of hear his story and hear what the experience was like and everything that happened to him. So really fun to be with this young, new group of dentists that are part of the Crown Council and the new up and coming generation of our group. So thankful for them, thankful to be with them if any of them are watching today. We also had Eagle U last week. I know we connected live with Steve. Such a fun thing to see Eagle U and what they're accomplishing for helping young students get that 7-year head start in their career. They do that every year annually. So the Eagle U program is every year. And if you're a Crown Council member or know someone that wants to participate, what an incredible opportunity for you to be a part of. So really fun to connect with Eagle U. I'm going to navigate to my screen again. This is the crowncouncil.com website. Let's log in. Looks like I'm logged out for some reason. So I'm going to log in. And in my directory, if you'll go to your directory right here, it says my directory. In your directory, you'll find all these different hubs, all these different things that you can do as a member of the Crown Council, whether it's participating in the annual event, participating in Smiles for Life whitening, connecting with our resource partners, which is right here, qualifying for the qualified member program, which is a huge year-long program that you can be a part of. Obviously, here in the hub is where everything happens for you. Specifically, as a paying member of Crown Council, the premium member hub is the place where the library of tools comes alive. And this is our library as it is updated every week, and you can participate in that library together. I wanted to highlight just one part. So in your hub, everyone will have the Young Dentist Mentorship Series. This is something that we created a couple years ago. I'm going to scroll down. This is our Season 1 Mentorship Podcast Series, Season 1. Steve and I went out and found 12 different mentors for starting and creating your profession right out of dental school. So these are ideas that we had buying a retired dentist's practice with Dr. Tyre. So Jared Tyre shares his experience about what it was like to find and buy a practice that was from a retiring dentist. Obviously, starting a practice from scratch with Lincoln Parker, working in a family practice with Doctors Aaron and Steve Beveridge, what that's like to work together. And you can read the rest of these, right? Joining as an associate and then becoming a practice owner. This is an incredible little series to learn from some of the best in our Crown Council membership. Well, a lot of positive reviews behind that. So we have started releasing season 2. We've got 12 new interviews with mentors about how to create and build a practice as a young dentist, or even as just a starting, where you're starting in your own practice. So we interviewed Dr. David Montz about building his practice, Dr. Chase Larson, who I just mentioned, who was part of the Young Dentist program, and Dr. Jennifer Durst. So we just released hers last week. And the 2 interviews that you'll hear today are from doctors who are also part of this training series. We're releasing these new episodes every other week, and it's an incredible way for you to learn and find some mentors and just gain insight from people who've done it already. I guess if I'm going to say something, they've done it already. So you'll find that in the Crown Council on the crowncouncil.com website in the Young Dentist Mentorship Series. So hopefully everybody has an opportunity to watch and participate in that. All right, finally, I'm going to share my screen one more time. We are really looking forward to the Crown Council's annual event. It's coming up next year, so 2025. This is our annual gathering of all Crown Council members. It's going to be February 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2025 in Texas. And the event is actually filling up quickly. We had a team of 18 sign up to participate with us. Blake Cameron's office signed up to come to the annual event, and many others. So if you're on the fence or looking to sign up, now is the time to do it, as the hotel fills, as airlines are a great deal now to fly to Dallas, and then to make sure that there's enough room to participate in the annual event. You know, this is the one opportunity a year that you can really gather together with the community of Crown Council, where all of our teams and all of our members work together, just to be together as a community, which is part of the reason why we do this live stream, is to connect our community together. Inspiring speakers from outside of outside of dentistry. We're booking those and posting them here. But a great way to be motivated and learn from outside of dentistry. A lot of hands-on learning that Steve Anderson will be a part of, as he helps apply the things that are taught at the annual event to your dental practice when you go home. We'll have a lot of recognition and the life-changing charity of Smiles for Life. So there's a lot of really fun recognition at the annual event. So if you are a doctor and a leader on your team, this is the place where you can recognize your team. A lot of awards and opportunities to nominate team members to be a part of something that makes them feel appreciated and recognized. And then obviously we have fun. I can scroll back down to these pictures and see some of the fun things that we do. Dressing up here, we had a 50s night to celebrate the $50 millionth contributed to Smiles for Life. And here's Greg with some burros. Why not? We had burros at the annual event last year for a picture opportunity. So a lot of fun things like that. Obviously, great entertainment is always there. So if your team is looking to participate, now is the time to sign up. This is where you register. So you can go to ccannualevent.com or ccrowncouncil or crowncouncil.com, excuse me. And at the top, you'll see this link, annual event. And that's the best place to go to learn about all things annual event. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Next week, we're going to have a live webinar with Steve. One thing that he has, we've talked about it a few years in a row, is that September is often talked about as being kind of the worst month in dentistry. So Steve has insights to make September the best month ever. So this is going to be a 1-hour webinar where we're going to talk about what you can do, you know, as you prepare for September, what you can do now to have a great September. So secrets that you're going to learn about patience, things that you need to know to make sure that September is your best month ever. So we're going to have that live webinar. It's going to be during this live stream, but it's going to be a educational webinar that will take place next week. So. All right, I'm going to navigate away to let's see. Here we go. So this is Dr. David Rice. We had about a 45-minute interview where we talked all about his practice and his journey through dentistry. And I edited it down to about 25 minutes. So in order to get to get all of it, we're going to post that soon to the mentorship series. But this is just the beginning of that interview that I hope you'll enjoy. And then I'll break away and we'll share the interview we had with Charlie Cooper. So here we go. I'm going to push play and hopefully it all works out. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Mentor of the Month podcast. Stuart Henderson here, joined by Dr. David Rice. David, how are you?
I'm great, Stuart. How are you?
I'm very good. It is great to connect with you. I didn't want to share this before we got on. I have a small prop. I want you to know this is wacky. I actually think about you every day. This is a picture that hangs in my father's office of you, Garth Brooks,
Yes.
and Steve Anderson at the Mount Sinai Hospital. 2006 is what the picture says. I assume this is just when the zone at Mount Sinai opened and you guys were there for the opening.
That was it. It was an amazing day for sure. It
How
was a
cool is
great
that?
day. Yeah.
Anyway, it's funny. I mean, we haven't connected in a long time, but I wanted you to know that I think that's a picture that hangs in his office. So,
You're
anyway,
stuck with me.
I am, which is good, which is a good thing. So, hey, if this is the first time you're tuning in to these, our series 2 episodes of our mentor podcast for young doctors, we are working through interviewing and talking to some of the best in the business about what to do and how to transition into a career from dental school. So that's kind of the theme. We're talking to practice owners, people that have built practices from scratch, those that have joined DSOs or practices with their parents, or I don't even know. There's probably hundreds of different scenarios here. So I know David through Ignite DDS. David, I met your program through Darren Liu, who is like one of our biggest cheerleaders at the Young Dentist program. And I know that you guys have had an incredible experience together. You and Darren, he speaks very highly of Ignite DDS and all that you do there. Should I I'll introduce, can I introduce Ignite DDS or?
Sure, whatever you like.
Okay. So, Ignite DDS, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure I get it right, but you are reading the paragraph right from your time. You are spending a lot of time working with young docs, building the nation's largest new dentist and student community, where you travel the world speaking, writing, and connecting today's top young dentists with tomorrow's most successful dental practices. So David is much more than just a general dentist. He has really expanded his career and expanded dentistry to helping young docs and connecting them with mentors and the right paths to take to find success. So really grateful you'd be with us, David. You scolded me for calling you Dr. Rice, so I'll just continue to
Yeah.
call you. Okay.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, listen, and I learned all these lessons from your family, for God's sakes. This like life is funny how it works, right?
Yeah, it is. It's fun how it cycles back. We were with a group of young dentists last week for our young dentist program, and they were talking about one of our Dr. Guy Gross. And Guy had written this book about being on time, and when you're early, you're on time, and when you're on time, you're late, and when you're late, you're lost. And he's like, and this doc was like, I work for Dr. Gross, and that we live by that rule that he made up. And I was like, did he make that one up? I'm not sure if he did make that one
We have to
up.
sit down with Guy about that one, huh?
So it was kind of fun to see it come full circle. But
Yeah.
David, could you talk a little bit about just where you work, what you do, and a little history about your how did dentistry present itself to you, and how did you become a dentist?
Sure. So, gosh, I'm an enigma of a dentist for those of you who don't know me. I live in Florida, although I travel back to New York to practice every other month to see patients. And the bulk of my time, as Stuart mentioned, like I'm working with you if you're a young dentist or you're a student. So we host in-person events, we do a lot of virtual stuff, and our goal really is just help young people build self-determined futures because there's just so many people chirping in your ear telling you what you cannot accomplish. and then how you have to accomplish anything in life. I just feel like my role is to help everybody objectively understand every single pathway there is, and then, provide a playbook for how to get there. And then full circle, like connect them with tremendous people in dentistry. So I met Darren, you brought up Darren earlier, at an ASDA event in Breckenridge, Colorado. And we stayed up literally all night talking. And it was, 5 in the morning. I'm like, Darren, good Christmas. On the East Coast, it's like 8 a.m. here. I'm dying. And I just think dentistry is such an amazing profession that our part of our mission is really just help people live whatever their vision and best life is. That's it. And for me, I didn't necessarily have that before I went to dental school, so it became really important to me. I was one of those kids who I was either going to go to med school or dental school, so I did all these externships, and in reality, like I think I just kind of landed in dentistry. I did my externships in medicine, a lot of which were pretty serious, like specialty care things. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's not for me. I don't want life and death to be in my hands every day. And that was like my view of what medicine had to be. And in dentistry, I came across some like super dentists early on, including my own. And I thought, whoa, that looks way better to me. I can help people, but I'm not living on the edge every moment. So I stumbled into dental school. I very thankfully fell in love with it pretty early on, and I just keep falling in love with it over and over again every year.
That's awesome. And could you talk about just maybe where you went to dental school and what you did right out of school when you got started?
Sure. So I went to SUNY Buffalo, which, if you've not been to Buffalo, is a special place to hang out for like July through maybe September. And I did a GPR after that in a hospital called Allegheny General in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a huge fan of postgraduate programs, if as a young doc you can afford it, because I know that student debt thing is a thing, and there are many students coming out with families, so maybe that's a little harder. But that was my path. I did two and a half, I'm going to say, different associateships. The first one, epic fail. So learned all about who I didn't want to be when I grew up.
Okay, we got to hear about this. Let's expand
Yeah,
on that one. Okay.
listen, I'll tell you the stories. And
Okay,
then
let's do it.
the next one was pretty good, but it was just bad timing. And I think,
Mm,
we can all relate to that, where we meet somebody in our life, maybe in our personal life, who's like just great person, just wasn't the right time for you or maybe for them. And then that half one was the practice I knew I was going to buy walking in as an
mm,
associate. We just had kind of a 7 month runway between my associateship and my and ownership, and then we just never looked back.
nice.
Yeah.
What maybe some advice from that first practice then? What happened and what mistakes that you made that you're willing to share that others might not make?
How much time do we have?
Let's do it.
I will tell you, the that first associateship lasted all of 3 weeks. So biggest mistake,
Mm,
I I didn't vet the practice hard enough. I walked in with the assumption that because this person was a part-time faculty member where I had gone to school, that I
mm,
had this, like, I was enamored. I'm like, oh my God, they picked me. Yay, look at me. Look at this dental school stuff wasn't as bad as it turned out, as I thought it was going to be. And so I picked up and moved everything back from Pittsburgh back to Buffalo, New York, all because of this practice. And 3 weeks later, when I learned about all like the fraud that was happening in the practice,
oh
I
my.
knew, man, I didn't want to be a part of that. I knew dentistry was also a small community. And even if I wasn't a part of that, but I was present, I was going to be guilty by association. So I, said, hey, thanks so much for the opportunity, but it's time for me to move on. And so I think biggest mistake is I didn't do enough homework.
Mm,
I felt like lucky to get this great position, but as a young dentist, you worked really hard to get where you are. You deserve to be where you are. So always remember that, and ask around. Most of us know each other.
yeah. And then when you left that practice, you moved into another associateship. Did you do it different? Did you do a little more vetting? Did you spend a little more time? I mean, if a doctor now is doing that, can you talk about that process maybe?
Sure.
How it can work best for them? Okay.
Absolutely. So yes, I did more homework. Part of it was, simple things you can do when you walk in and meet somebody. Just walk around the practice, meet. everybody on the team, like you're gonna immediately feel either they're really happy to be here or boy, this place is a grind
Mhm.
and they're barely keeping their head above water. Like nobody can fake it for more than 30 seconds. So just have like real conversations with everybody who's there and, feel the vibe of the practice, walk into where cases maybe come back from a lab, pick up a couple bins, look at preps. Odds are if their crown preps are pretty good and maybe veneer preps are pretty good or implant cases look pretty good, they probably do everything at a decent level, right? If they take pride in it. So just maybe be a quiet observer. And then of course in today's world, which in my Stonehenge days I didn't have this advantage, but we can Google everybody for goodness sake. So it's really easy for us to figure out who people are, who they're connected to,
Mm.
learn what kind of practice style they have. And if it matches yours, they're a candidate. And if it doesn't match theirs, even if you really think you need to take this job, it's probably not worth jumping into because you're just going to be disappointed.
I love that. I actually was watching, don't judge me for this. I was watching John Wick 4, all your listeners out there. Um, and there was a silly phrase in there where one of the characters says, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I thought, wow, some philosophy here from an action movie. And I think that fits in like my grandma used to always talk about that, like, hey, look at his shoes if they're shined, or that's a huge tell. Like, I love that you can't fake it for more than 30 seconds. That is a real thing. I mean, just time together will kind of reveal how it all works out. So,
I think so too. And I also think, people who can walk the talk, they have a different kind of quiet confidence to them. They don't need to tell
mhm.
you how successful they are. They don't need all the glitz and the glam. It's not that they may not have a beautiful practice and take pride in that. I'm very thankful for our practice and it is, amazing when you walk in the door, but you would immediately get the sense walking in our practice like that's not what it's about. It's about a group of people who feel like um more important than the dentistry, which is very important to us, but more important to that is we want to accomplish something together and look back 20, 30 years in the future and say, wow, look at how well we did for so many people in our community.
Love that. That's awesome. David, you have an interesting perspective on young dentists. Can you talk about what challenges you are seeing, some of the biggest challenges that they are faced with coming out of dental school, and what advice you are giving to Ignite DDS and to those young docs that are surrounding you, challenges that they're faced with, and messages that they're getting that you don't quite believe in or that they should be aware of?
Sure. So first is I know you either have overwhelming debt and it is a true thing, or you believe you do. It
Mhm.
just depends on the school you go to. But that, I mean, I'm headed out to USC this week, and they're $145,000 a year. That's just to go to school, plus your supplies, plus your living expenses, plus, and then add in any debt you have from undergrad. So it's not uncommon for young people to walk out of dental school today with five to $800,000 of debt. So that is a problem we have in our industry. And I understand when you walk across that stage, it's daunting.
Mm.
The other big problem I see are all the people who are leveraging that story against you. And they're telling you because of that debt, your only opportunity is to come to work for me. And you can fill in the blank of who that for me is
Mm.
and maybe opportunities that get quote presented to you in any one of those scenarios. But the reality is, um, and Stuart, better than anyone, like life's a mindset thing. So everything is possible for you. The coolest thing in the whole world is once you leave dental school and you go practice for 2 years, or you go to a postgrad program and practice for a year, any of the greatest lenders in dentistry, they don't care how much debt you have. So long as you're a reasonable spender, you show that you've taken some pretty good education and you've gained a little bit of speed, they'll give you all the money you want to go build your dream your way. And sometimes that might mean buying into a practice. Sometimes it's going to mean buying your own. And sometimes it'll mean building one from scratch, and all of it works. It really is just about having a vision for yourself and your life and what you want and what's that look like. And one of those options will be better for you based on that vision.
Great advice. I love that. And when you present that to young doctors, what do they usually what are the barriers there to believing you to say, are they like oh, does the light click, or is there still some resistance to man, I don't even know where to start when I want to build my own thing? What
Yeah,
advice do
that
you give there? Yeah.
super question. So it does click. So it absolutely clicks. And people I think are like, oh my gosh, I can, which is wonderful. I feel like the resistance comes from it's so overwhelming to conceptualize all the pieces. So who are the people I'm going to need, whether it's lenders, insurance carriers, builders, developers, attorneys, CPAs, the mentor piece, which is, far and away the most important thing you need to get right as a, third, fourth year student and new dentist for sure. But just the who's are so overwhelming, get alone. Well, where am I going to do this? How do I find a location? How do I know if that location's good or bad? And then the belief system of I can do it, or well, I don't really know if I'm good enough to do it. That's where the overwhelm kicks in.
Yeah, tricky. And uh, when you look back at your life, your work, where did you find mentors or your philosophy of care? How did you, when you look back, you're like, oh, that guy shaped me, this experience shaped me. What kind of things can you pinpoint that really made you who you are?
So, before I finished dental school, I didn't really have a lot of great dental mentors, but I had a really great friend of mine's dad who owned his own company, and I shadowed him for some time and I watched how he treated his team,
Hmm.
and it was phenomenal. And can I tell like a 30-second story?
Yeah, of course.
All right, awesome. So this guy owned a woman's headwear company,
Okay.
hats, scarves, like all the stuff. And he did faux fur before faux fur was in vogue because he just believed in it. So that was kind of cool. Doesn't matter what your belief is, but whatever it is you believe, like, man, just dig deep. So he did. And I was there literally, it was like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It was my third year of undergrad. And, he did the whole lunch, which was cool. And everybody had a turkey and you know, a pie that he gave them to bring home to the family. That was really cool. But then after lunch, I watched this woman walking out of his private office, and
Mhm.
Stuart, tears are just rushing down her face. I'm like, oh my God, I thought he was a really good guy. I think he just fired that person. This is crazy. And his secretary, who's the sweetest little old lady, her name was Adele. She's like, do you know what Dennis did in there? I'm like, I think he fired her. She's like, no, he just wrote a tuition check for her daughter's next semester.
Oh.
Boom. And then what she said after that, like just struck a chord. It still strikes a chord with me. He does that all the time based on what people really need in the moment, and he'll never breathe a word of it. And it was only because probably 20 years later, I had written an article and I wrote about him that he found out through a friend of a friend of a friend. And he called me up. He's like, how did you even know? So he, his name is Dennis Tellini. He was instrumental for me. Once I got through dental school, like your dad and your
Mm.
uncle
Mm.
were huge. I mean, I bought when I bought my practice, I'm dating myself, right? I open up a cabinet, there's a VHS tape, and it was your uncle and Walter Haley. And I
Mm.
thought, whoa, these two guys are totally different than anything I've seen, heard, read. And I took a chance, brand new practice owner, no money, and booked tickets to Chicago for our entire team. And that was the start of our journey,
Mm.
learning from your family. So, your dad, Greg, and your uncle Steve were like huge influences. David Hornbrook, who you guys do a ton of work with,
Mm.
huge influence for me. Pete Dawson, like all those people, just they made me know that I could build whatever I wanted to build. And they showed me a lot of the how to along the way, but a lot of it was like you just saw them living that way. And it became like, why can't I do that too?
So cool. Well,
Yeah.
David, when you're looking at giving advice to young docs, what do you share with them about choosing mentors? Like, where do they go to find them? What can they look out for when you're like, we got some red flags here? Any advice there?
So much advice.
I want it all. Let's do
So
it.
much advice. I'm going to start with the good stuff, but don't let
Okay.
me forget the bad stuff because I
Okay.
think both sides are important. So, I believe there are three sort of mentor archetypes that we all need, and whether one person encompasses all three or you need nine people to get to the three, it doesn't matter. But we all need a cheerleader, and I think that's the mentor we sort of gravitate towards, right? That person who helps us wake up and be our best when we don't feel like it. Easy one. I think most people have that one, but we got to have them. The next one is, and this is a Brendan Burchard-ism. We need a top 2%er. So when I met your dad and I met your uncle and I met David Hornbrook and Pete Dawson, it was readily apparent to me that they had knowledge beyond almost everybody. They had skill beyond almost everybody, and they had integrity beyond almost everybody.
That's
So I
cool.
knew them to be top 2%ers.
Hmm.
Then the third archetype, I would say this is the hard one for most of us, is you need a contrarian. You've not negative people, but you've got to have people in your life who see the world like 180 degrees differently than you see it. And because they see your blind spots.
Yeah.
So not someone who poo-poos the ideas, but somebody just says like, hey, Stuart, did you ever look at it this way? And I will tell you, when I started Ignite, you know, the first person I called was
Ew.
your Uncle Steve. I'm like, if I fly to Fort Worth, Texas, can you find a half day and tell me if I'm crazy? I have an idea. And like the greatest of great people, he said, come to Fort Worth, Texas, and I'll give you a whole day or however long you want. And I did that, and we did just that. And it was the greatest thing in the whole world because he had, you know, the uncanny ability to look at all the things that I thought were amazing and say, did you ever think about what if this happens, then what will you do? And that was so helpful for me because I was just, you know, green is green and going to sprint. So, I think those are the things we have to have in mentors. Can I tell you the place not to go?
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yeah.
don't go to Facebook groups for the love of God. And I have a Facebook group, but
Oh
I will
no.
tell you, like, that's that's not a 30,000 foot view. That's like a 130,000 foot view.
Hmm.
And on top of it, I, you know, not to burst anyone's bubble, but most Facebook groups don't bring real information. They bring a lot of affirmation. They'll tell you the same three things that are wrong with the world over and over and over again. So you feel so much pain that you listen to whatever stupidity they're going to share. But that's all that it is, gang. So get yourself out of Facebook and into like real rooms and meet real people and then do exactly what you hope your patients do. Get testimonials, ask for referrals, see who knows people, ask all the questions, and then study them. And when your gut says, hmm, maybe no, trust your gut. And when your gut says, wow, this person's different, learn more.
That is so good. Those were good. We should do. We got like an hour on those three. David, did I
Yeah,
see? Did you maybe share that on your Instagram feed? Those three things. I think I've seen a reel of you presenting that before.
I'm
That's
sure I have. You know, so in the book I wrote, I literally devoted an entire chapter to just those three pieces of the mentorship puzzle.
I love that. And did you come
Yeah.
up with that? Did you come up with that yourself, or is that something that you kind of gathered from other authors, or how'd you?
I mean, I would say I shaped it myself, but in reality, we could go back 1,000 years and
Mm,
philosophically, like not a lot's different. So I'm gonna say it's what is that quote like? If I'm anywhere, it's because I'm standing on the shoulder of giants.
mm.
So you learn all these great things over the years, and then I kind of took those things and said, you know, how did it really impact me? And it was those three that really kind of stood out more than anything.
Very cool. Would you say you still have those three in your life now?
Absolutely. And you got, you know, we all need them. We need them in our personal life. We need them in our professional life. Sometimes they can be the same person. For many people, probably not that often. And yeah, I'm constantly assessing like where I am, where I'm falling short and you know, who I really need to help me, you know, get to be better.
Very cool. What great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so looking forward at where you're going in dentistry and how you're building your team and also running Ignite DES, what sort of things are you hoping? I guess this is a big uh, because normally the people I ask, I don't know if they've ever thought about this, but I think you have. How are you trying to change dentistry? You know, when you look at your own team and when you look at Ignite DES, what are you hoping to do? Or if you want people to know, hey, if we do this together, it will change dentistry. What kind of things do you believe in when it comes to that?
First and foremost, I believe in helping all these young docs like build and live their self-determined future. So I can't tell you what success is, for you as a young dentist. Like, if it's family related or time related, or you want one amazing location, you want 800 locations, I want to do this kind of dentistry. It doesn't matter to me what your version of success is, but you have to find it, invest time in really knowing what that is, get granular with it. And then once you know it, I feel like my greatest mission is to give you the playbook
Mm.
to live it as a young dentist. And then when we get you from where you are to that next level, then my job is to connect you with those next level people who can bring you even further. And I think we're all in this game together. And I think that's, for me, that self-determined future piece is so huge. And it's a recipe. No matter what kind of practice model you want, it's just a recipe to follow.
Yeah. Well, I love that you are, when we talk to young doctors in Crown Council, I said, one of the biggest challenges you face is believing that you are doing this alone and that there are doctors like Dr. David Rice who are willing to share with you the things which you can find personal success with or professional success with. And they're like, wait, so someone's going to take time just to teach me. And I'm like, yes, no, they're out there. We can connect you to,
Yeah.
like David Hornbrook, um, uh, people that are willing to make sure that docs don't practice alone. So very cool. David, looking back uh, at yourself, time machine, would you do it different? Would you, if you had 30 minutes with young David Rice, what would you tell him? What kind of things are I don't want to say they're not regrets, uh,
Sure.
but things that you've learned that you're like, okay, this is an important thing I'd love to tell myself if I could go back.
I just throw in the towel now, son. No.
Move to Florida.
Just move. Oh, that's a really great one though, and very true. So picture, I knew as a young man, I knew that I didn't belong in Buffalo. I moved back there after my residency, yeah, for a job, but I even looked there in the first place because that's where my mom and my dad were. And that's where my sister was, and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles. And so I felt I was being a good son, a good sibling, a good grandchild, niece, a good nephew. Um, so yeah, if I could rewind the clock, I would say you knew in here, you knew in your heart where you belonged, and you didn't follow it.
Hmm.
For whether it was guilt or shame or all the things we emotionally feel at different points of our life, you didn't follow it. So that would be the biggest thing I would change, is I would have moved sooner. I mean, you, I'm grateful for my life and my path, and I would have, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have it. But it would have been, a whole lot easier if I built my business in Florida 30 years ago, as opposed to starting all over 7 years ago. And there's obviously ways and things you can do. That was a big one. I think on a really practical side, less philosophical, I wouldn't have paid off my student debt that fast.
Hmm.
And all you youngsters with massive debt, get rid of, like, don't have credit card debt, for goodness sakes. I love mission trips, but don't take a $10,000 mission trip when you can help people in your own community, right? Don't add your loans because of that. Like, do that later when you've got a little bit of money. But also don't worry about your student loan debt. Save money, bank cash. Your fastest way to getting out of debt and having what you want out of life is to be a practice owner of some sort. And the banks will give you the money when they see the cash. And
Hmm.
I did just the opposite of that. And I still remember going to the bank and they're like, that's great. You're 28. You have no debt. You've invested this money. You own a house. I didn't have a mortgage on the house even. They're like, who's going to co-sign your loan? And I thought,
Oh,
oh,
mm,
I'm like the greatest loan in the whole world. They're like, but you're not, because we don't
mm,
want to sell your house. And if your practice doesn't work out, we don't want to sell your practice. So,
mm.
ask great questions of people in those mentor lanes. And mine would have been to turn back the clock and say, hey, smart financial person who knows more than me, how do I manage this debt that I have so I can get where I want to go?
Wow.
And in general, I'd say aside from that, just ask more questions. Don't be afraid that you don't know the answer or think that you're supposed to know the answer. We as the mentor, I want to see that you're all in, but I don't really expect you to know anything. I just want you to be hungry to learn and
That's
to
cool.
show up when you say you're going to show up and give me 100%, and then I'll give you 100%. And I think to your point, Stuart, there's lots of great people out there who feel that way and they want to help.
Yeah. All right, we're going to cut that Dr. David Rice podcast interview short. You're going to see the whole broadcast, the whole interview posted in the next couple weeks. There's about 25 more minutes with Dr. Rice. So grateful for him and all the awesome things that he shares. We're going to move into the interview with Dr. Charlie Cooper. Thankful for Charlie. We might not be able to hear all of the interview from Charlie, but that's okay. You'll get a taste of him and some of the things that he shares, as well as knowing that his interview will also be posted in the coming weeks. So grateful for Charlie and thankful for the time he spent with me. All right, everybody, welcome to the Crown Council Mentor of the Month. This is our mentorship series, our leadership series. I'm Stuart Anderson, joined by Dr. Charlie Cooper. Dr. Cooper, how are you?
Fantastic, Stuart. How about yourself?
I'm very good. It is, I was just telling Charlie, with this mentorship series, I've reached out to some of the people that I really admire, doctors that I feel like we're friends, that we've shared some really fun experiences over the years. And
Yes.
when I asked Charlie to do this, he was more than happy. And what's funny, Dr. Cooper, was usually this process takes like 2 or 3 months to iron out the date. And you were like, let's do this, man, next week.
Now let's go.
Let's go. Let's get it done. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your story and hearing more about what you've built over the years. And hopefully, I don't know, as a podcaster, I don't know what we call this. I can get the questions to get it out of you. So,
All right. Well, give them to me.
okay. Hey, so just a little bit about Dr. Cooper. Um, uh, we have known each other, although I have actually been to your practice once, the Atlanta Center
Right.
for Cosmetic Dentistry, and it is beautiful. If you guys are listening to this podcast, you should go online, look it up, Atlanta Center for Cosmetic Dentistry, and just take a peek at what Charlie and his team have built over the years. It is absolutely incredible. And especially when I was spending some time this morning, Charlie, on the website, when you click on Celebrity Smiles and you get to look at some of the smiles you guys do, this is the coolest thing that you have built and that you get to experience, that I hope that we can talk about for just Charlie, could you give just a little background about the practice you're in, give people just kind of a high level view of who you are and the practice that you're in right now?
Sure,
Okay.
Stuart. Well, and thanks again for having me. I mean, I feel honored that you would include me in that group of people that you think can help these young dentists kind of navigate what can be really murky waters at times.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit different than most in that I had my own practice for 20 years, general dentistry. Every day, getting there early in the morning, staying late at night. The same thing that a lot of these guys and young ladies are going to probably be doing. But I always had a passion for cosmetics, and I actually had a dental school instructor that was from South America, and he's the one that said you guys can do actually white fillings, and we're like, no, man, you got to do amalgam. I mean, that's all there is, right? And that's how I'm telling how old I am. But ever since I fell in love with cosmetics, it was always my goal, if you will, to be a cosmetic dentist, and that can mean a lot of things. But I had an opportunity after 20 years of doing what I was doing to join forces with probably one of the premier cosmetic dentists in the world. I mean, I give her credit, Deborah Gray King. I actually saw her at a youth football game, and I said, Deborah, I'm looking to move in town. I want to kind of reinvent myself. And you know anybody wanting to sell a practice in your part of the town? And she goes, forget that. You're coming to work for me. And I said, no,
Nice.
you got your own thing going on. She's like, no, I need you. And the rest is history. We're now in year 16 together. And I tell you, it just gets better and better and better every year. I mean, I'm tickled pink. And to your point about the celebrities, I mean, first of all, I'm going to go full disclosure. Every patient we see is a VIP. Okay. It just happens to be some of them do different things for a living, i.e. sing, dance, but yeah, I mean, it's been kind of cool to get to meet some of the what I call higher level, interesting individuals in their careers. And so, yeah, it's been fun. But that's really what we do. And to Deborah's credit, she started out saying, I just want to do cosmetic dentistry every day. And so I went from seeing many, many patients a day to usually sometimes only seeing one, and doing maybe a full mouth reconstruction or heck, 10 veneers, But it's been a dream come true for me, and I hope it's coming across now how excited I still am to be
You
practicing
are.
dentistry
It does.
at 64. Okay,
I love it. Maybe Charlie, could you take us back to just early influences, how you started your career in dentistry, if there were mentors or a passion you had early on for dentistry? How did that start?
well, yeah, it's interesting. You asked me that before we got started, and I was always interested in science. I mean, heck, I won the science fair in high school. I mean, I had to get in science, right? But I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, I wanted to fly to the moon, but clearly that didn't work out. So I always looked at physicians kind of with a high regard. And so I just thought, well, I'll just go to med school. And I had a dentist friend of mine across the street, believe it or not, that said, why do you want to do that? He said, dentistry is awesome. The hours are better. It's just for a myriad of reasons. And so I did. I applied to dental school. I got in, and here we are talking about dentistry. So I'd have to say that Charlie Shields, the dentist across the street, was my probably biggest influencer that caused me to move into the field of dentistry. But yeah, could have been John Glenn. I just was hoping to be John Glenn.
I love that.
So
That
date
fits your
myself again.
that fits your personality perfect though.
Yeah,
It would have been
yeah.
you would have been good. That's awesome. When you look back, there's a theme that is constantly coming up in this in our podcast, which is the mentors that kind of guide your career.
Right.
Can you talk about that for a minute? Maybe who has and why they have influenced who you are and what you believe now, your philosophy of care. Are there anybody that stands out and what you've learned from those mentors over the years?
Yeah, Stuart. I think if you look at my career and you can either divide it by two or divide it by three. I think most dentists will say the first 10 or 15 is their baby years, and then the next 15 they're really kind of getting their groove on, and then the next 15 they're kind of slowing down. But I didn't do that. I went hard and fast for 20 years, and then I went faster for the last 15. But doing what I love. I think if you think about lessons that I've learned or mentors or how I got to where I am. I go back to what Dr. Kiro said. He is, you really have to think outside the box if you're going to be a cosmetic dentist. You have to be able to see the end result before you start it, and you always have to have an exit strategy. And I never really understood that until I got into dentistry. And I can't tell you how many times I've started something and halfway through go, oh goodness, how am I going to get out of this? Either to make the patient happy or do it in a painless manner, whatever the case may be. But I'm always cognizant of having an exit strategy. As far as mentors and people that really kind of molded my career, now again, I'm really dating myself when I tell you this, but Woody Oakes had The Profitable Dentist for many, many years. And I don't even know if he's still doing that or not, but they were actually cassette tapes that I used to listen to on the
Nice.
way to and from work. And they were all about common sense dental stuff, how to deal with staff, how to deal with problem patients, how to do certain procedures. It was awesome. Once I started down the cosmetic dentistry path, I would say that joining the ACD was probably the first thing that really comes to mind. Is you created all of a sudden a whole plethora of people that are out there wanting to do the same thing that I wanted to do. Obviously, joining the local societies, you meet a lot of dentists. But I'll tell you the thing that helped me more than anything when I think back is identifying the specialist in the area that I was going to refer to and seeking them out and saying, listen, I'm going to need your help to do what I need to do. And I want to know that you're going to help me if I need your help. So yeah, it was like, let's go to lunch, and then lunch turned into a lunch group, and then before you know it, we were having social events with our wives. So I would tell you that, mentorship can mean a lot of things, but start out by finding the people that you're going to be finding, or I should say, finding help, or that you're going to need help from, and see what that turns into. As far as individuals that probably have, I mean, without a doubt, David Hornbrook is the reason that we're sitting here talking right now. He and Mark Montgomery, for sure. Okay, and for those of you who don't know David Hornbrook and Mark Montgomery, just look them up. Okay, they've done, I mean, so much for cosmetic dentistry and occlusion, which a lot of dentists, most dentists, don't even know what occlusion really is. I mean, I hate to say that, certainly don't learn a lot of it in dental school. But it's so important when you start doing these cosmetic cases, and even just general dentistry, knowing how the teeth work and how the chewing system works. So I give them credit where credit's due. I think, and again, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think you know who I'm going to say next, but your dad and Steve Anderson and everybody at Crown Council. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know you guys existed until I joined Deborah. And I mean, what a great thing you guys are doing for dentistry. Not only just for dentists, but for the entire staff. Bringing in headline speakers that talk about their life experiences and how they, climbed the ladders to success and how they were able to navigate those waters that we all wind up in at some point in time. And I think that was where I learned that, emulating greatness is a whole lot better than trying to create it, right? I mean, a lot of people have said that in speeches, but it's true. I mean, find some people that you really want to be like and emulate them. And that's what I've tried to do with not only with, Steve Anderson and all of y'all at Crown Council, and but mainly David and Mark.
Yeah. Well, great advice. That was it. I don't, very good. Those bullet points were so good. Charlie, I would love to spend some time exploring a bit. Like when you look at your practice, when you look at what you've learned over the years. So, the people that I hope that the people that are listening here are young docs, maybe some older docs, who are saying to themselves, okay, I'm about to launch phase one. If Charlie Cooper was, knowing what you know now, was about to leave dental school, how would you do it? What kind of things are you doing with the knowledge you have now, whether it's different or the same, that advice you would give to somebody just starting off when it comes to either building a practice, joining a DSO, becoming a part owner in a practice? I mean, how would you do it? What do you think that a great way to success there is?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, Stuart. And obviously it gets asked often, right? I mean, every baby dentist, is out there going, what do I do next? And we've had several in our practice over the years. And it's interesting, as I've seen I think dentistry, the landscape of dentistry change, it's these individuals that are coming out are a lot smarter than I was, for sure, about the ways of the world. I mean, obviously the internet has changed everything. But if I had to give them one piece of advice, it's, learn what a balance sheet is and learn how to read a P&L. I mean, because whether you're buying your first car, buying your first house, borrowing some money to start a dental practice, I think you really do need to have some financial savvy. And I didn't. I'll be the first to admit. I mean, we didn't have any accounting classes, and certainly not in pre-dental or pre-med in college. And it was probably 5 or 6 or 7 years into my practice before I really understood what the accountant was saying. So I think you could cut off a lot of the extra road out there in front of you if you can start learning the mechanics of the business of dentistry. Even if you're not busy, I mean, take that opportunity that you're never going to have. And once you start getting busy, you don't have time to learn those things.
Smart.
The other thing that I think is also important as a young dentist is don't be afraid to try new things, but stay in your lane. I hate to use that because it's gotten overused, but learn what you want to do, be good at it, but don't beat yourself up when things don't go right. I mean, we all make mistakes. And I've said this for many years. we call it practicing dentistry for a reason. I mean, you don't want to tell your patients you're practicing on them, but I mean, every time you do a procedure, you learn a little bit more about the last one you did before, and
Right.
maybe the next one becomes easier. But I think that's true. And then the last thing I was going to tell you is don't be the bank. I mean, we get out of dental school and we want to just help people. Like, I just want to do this filling for you. You know, these people owe, you for what you do, and you deserve to be paid for it. And I know I was guilty, and I'm sure a lot of dentists have been guilty. You get, oh, we can finance it, or we can do it for a little bit this month, a little bit. And the next thing you know, you've got all these people that might owe you money, and you feel bad because you've done the dentistry, but you haven't been paid for it. So I don't know. Just, collect up front as best you can, and don't be the bank.
That's great advice. I love it. Could you pull back the curtain just a little bit on Atlanta Center for Cosmetic Dentistry? I'll maybe ask a few questions about what works, what doesn't work, what challenges have you faced over the last few years that people could learn from? What are you most proud of? What do you want to change, or how would you do it different? I mean, how do you train the team? How do you are a happy man, and there's a reason for that. And maybe explain that. How does the business run? That what you guys are doing that make it so good. Can you talk about that?
Sure. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that go into who we are and what we do. But again, I give credit to you guys. I mean, we've learned a lot of things at your conferences and over the years working with TOPS. But I think that the number one thing is that we treat patients like we want to be treated. I know it sounds like the golden rule, because it is the golden rule, but you treat others like you want to be treated. And we're always cognizant of how the patients feel, the things that they see, the things that they hear, the things that they smell, the things that they taste. I mean, it's all the senses. We're always about trying to make, all of that great. But we also have to do great dentistry. And our practice alone, or I should say, we are the only practice that I'm aware of that has Dr. Deborah Gray King, who's an accredited fellow with the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, Dr. Laura Justice, who just joined us, who's also a fellow, Dr. Brett Reeve, who recently became an accredited member. I too am an accredited member, working on my fellowship. I'm only 15 cases away, so I'm hoping to cross that bridge soon. But we decided, and I think give Deborah credit, we decided that if you're going to be practicing cosmetic dentistry, you need to be the best, and you need to have the credentials to support that. And so the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry is the reason that we are who we are, in as much as we've hang around like-minded individuals. We think about the accreditation process. It's the only time since dental school that you actually let other people grade your work in a pass-fail manner. I mean, I was told, yeah, that's not good enough. And I'm like, holy cow, I thought it was magnificent,
Wow. Yeah.
So I think that, number one, if I'm a young dentist starting out, think about how, if you will, separating yourself from the pack and going through the accreditation process at the American Academy would be number one. Number two, I think finding, like we said, David Hornbrook, and there's a lot of guys and dentists, girls, females, dentists as well, that are out there, talking about how to be better dentists. But find one or two that you really feel like represent who you want to be, and just mirror them. Again, it's so tough when you're a young dentist. You don't have your gray hairs yet. So, you haven't earned the right to tell those patients you must do this or else. You're almost kind of sheepishly going into the consult going, I think you really need to do a filling here, and they're like, yeah, we'll come back in a few years when I'm older. I don't know if that really answers the question, Stu, but I do think that, these young dentists, if you look at our practice, it would be next to impossible to reproduce what we have here. So, I'm going to brag on Dr. King for a little bit. I mean, yeah, we do see a lot of high profile individuals. If you look at our website, we tend to attract people who ask the question, if you wanted the best doctor in the world, where would you go? Well, I mean, you start on the internet probably, but word of mouth for sure has driven a lot of the patients that we have in our practice to our practice, including the high level celebrity patients. They send their friends and their family members, and obviously with Instagram and Facebook and all these things that are out there, we've been very fortunate that we've done several of these people, and they've been happy with the results, and then it's just grown from there.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop there. We've reached the top of the hour. A lot to kind of soak in there, 2 big interviews, and there's even more available from both these docs. So really grateful for just being able to share their mentorship and leadership with everybody here in the Crown Council, and grateful that you join us live today. Look for those interviews coming out on our mentorship series. And we will be with you next week on our live webinar. There's going to be a registration link. It's not going to be here on this link. So look for that. And we'll see you next week when we go live again. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.